Hey guys, welcome to Drinking with Dave, where every episode I sample a different drink and then pair it with classical music. Today we'll be entering the world of bourbon, and what better place to do that than Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. In this episode, we'll be sampling the Four Roses Small Batch. So the history of Four Roses goes all the way back to 1888, and its distillery is actually listed on the National Register of Historic Places, which is kind of cool. They have four main bourbons, and I'll go ahead and list them from the least expensive, moving on up to the most expensive, starting with their standard bourbon, which is 80 proof. You then have the small batch, which is 90 proof, and that's what we'll be having today. From there, you have the single barrel, which is 100 proof, and then the small batch select, which is 104 proof. Now, I would say all four of these are reasonably priced for what you're getting, but I particularly think you're getting a great bang for the buck with the small batch, coming in around $35, depending on where you're located. As for the specs, they've crafted 10 unique recipes. The single barrel, of course, will pull from individual recipes, but the small batch has blended four of these recipes to make a very nice complementary blend. It also has two separate mash bills, and this pulls from two recipes from each one of those mash bills. When it's all said and done, averaged out, you're looking at about roughly 2/3 corn and 1/3 rye with 5% barley. This one is also 45% ABV and has been aged 6 to 7 years. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to the nose. On the nose, this comes across as sweet and mellow, but not as mellow as their entry level. There actually is a really nice spice here, but the predominant notes coming through are caramel and oak. Maybe some vanilla. Yeah, there's a very fresh, woodsy quality here, but vanilla is probably going to be that second strongest note coming in after the caramel. There's also a really nice balance here between the sweetness and the spice. I'm getting some fruit notes as well. Having trouble deciphering which fruits exactly, maybe some oranges there, but let's just see what's on the palate. It's creamy, but still has a lower viscosity at the same time. The flavors on this are very pleasant. You get more of the caramel and the vanilla notes on the front. Then as it moves toward the soft palate, that's when you really start to get some of those fruit notes. And then it finishes with just a little bit of spiciness. I would say this maybe even be spicier than the single barrel. It's very mellow on the front, but it has a nice strength on the back. I'm going to taste this again and see what fruit notes I can pick up. Once you get past the caramel, those fruit notes really start coming alive. Ooh, I'm starting to pick up more oak now too. I'm not getting so much the oranges now, more peaches, apricot, maybe cherries. Probably something close to oranges though, like tangerines, something in that neighborhood. But yeah, I didn't really pick up the oak on that first sip, and I'm starting to get more of that now. There's a lot of depth here, and some of the flavors that you might associate with sweetness hit on the front, but surprisingly, it actually starts kind of dry and then finishes a little bit sweeter. Overall, I would say this one is very well balanced. The flavors complement each other superbly. And for $35 a bottle, you're hard pressed to find a bourbon much better than this. Now, can you go up $10 and find a better bourbon? Sure. But in terms of bang for the buck, this is a great whiskey. So if I'm pairing this with music, I'm going with the Adagietto from Mahler's Fifth Symphony. And as always, I'll leave a link down in the description below if you want to check that out. I kind of, went back and forth between Rimsky-Korsakov and Mahler's Fifth, but at the end of the day, I really like Mahler for this one. The Fifth Symphony is probably the most balanced of his symphonies from beginning to end. And I could say the same thing about the Four Roses. It's well balanced from beginning to end. Now, this is not my favorite Mahler symphony, and it doesn't have that characteristic larger-than-life finale that you get from some of his other symphonies, like the Second or the Eighth. But this is a great introduction to Mahler if you're introducing somebody to Mahler for the first time. And I kind of feel the same way about the Four Roses. If you were introducing somebody to Bourbon for the very first time, this is a pretty safe introduction. Now, this is a longer symphony, and so we're going to focus on one section, which is the Adagietto. It's the fourth movement out of 5, and was written as a love song to his wife, Alma. It's probably one of the most beautiful pieces ever composed, in my opinion. But a little backstory, this actually came at a time in Mahler's life when he almost died. He had an intestinal hemorrhage and almost cost him his life. He recovers from that. He goes to this villa in Austria overlooking the lake, a beautiful scenery. I can't remember the name of the lake. But it's during this period of recuperation that he meets Alma Schindler. Starts courting her. The two of them become engaged, and then they end up marrying the next March. And it's during this time period that he is writing the Fifth Symphony and then supposedly writes the fourth movement for his new wife, Alma. And you hear so much of that in the Adagietto. It's gentle, like the Four Roses. It's poetic. It conveys a serenity that almost makes time seem to stop. But within that, there's a triumph. You can hear this growing optimism as Mahler transitions from the struggles of his personal health that he's overcome to this new optimism about what the future brings and a newfound appreciation on life. This movement really embraces the idea of new beginnings. And I've always said, if the sunrise had a sound, this is that sound. But like the Four Roses, it also evolves. The Four Roses doesn't hit you with spice up front. It builds to that spice, and it develops layers of profundity as it progresses toward the finish. And that's the same thing the Adagietto does. So anyway, that's my take on the Four Roses small batch. Thank you guys so much for watching, and feel free to subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. Take care.